We can start.
2 minutes past 9.
Yeah, let's do that.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all here that early. For those of you who do not know me yet, I am Kitwana Lion, flew in all the way from Switzerland. And just like my friend Rukario, I have some very special challenges that I have to tackle when it comes to fursuiting regarding my special needs. So I want to start beginning. Things started to go bad even before I was born, and it was during my mother's third month of pregnancy where she got infected with chickenpox. It is also known as varicella, and that has infected me before I was born, and the official diagnosis is now recognized as congenital varicella syndrome, with CVS for short. And it's an extremely rare condition. When I was born back in 1984, there were only 30 other cases recorded in medical literature. 2 in Switzerland, 28 in the US. And no, I do not know the other case in Switzerland, in my country. It's all anonymous. So. I am most impacted by my feeding tube. That means I cannot eat or drink anything the traditional way, so no breakfast for me. But I had my feeding done overnight, just like I always do. All overnight, all I need. And another issue is my limited vision. It's impacted the right half of my face, and I lost vision on my right eye even before I was born. The virus attacked this. So these are the challenges that I have to overcome in fursuiting. A particularly bad time for me was between 1996 and 2013. In these years, I had to spend up to 150 days a year in bed. I could not go to school or go to work or do anything because of various late side effects of my condition. The very worst was in October of 1998, where I spent 15 days in coma in a hospital in Switzerland, clinically dead after post-surgery complications that caused gastric juice from my stomach flow into my lungs and basically dissolving a part of them. So the doctors were very scared I would not make it. For the first 7 days I was clinically dead, and completely out of nowhere the values started to improve on the 8th day, and they were able to wake me up on the 15th day again. Thankfully I know nothing about it. I do not have any memory of that. Probably better that way, but it was very, very scary. But thankfully I was taken care of very well, and while I don't want to go into politics, I can say that the healthcare system in Switzerland and the social security system is world class. It's truly another world compared to here, and I can only say, without going into politics, to me that was a big help, not having to care for money or financial issues. Everything was paid. My special tube feeding food is paid for, and that certainly helps. Of course, it doesn't make you healthy again. Some things are irreversible, but it did help me, of course, going through this time, and I have excellent family that took great care of me. Nowadays, thanks to the social security system of Switzerland, the feeding tube alone grants me a full disability rent, which means I'm able to live off that. The rent is that high that you can live with that. You can pay for rent, taxes and everything. But still, besides that, I'm working part-time, an office job in a special education facility. I would not need to work. The social security system is good enough. But still, I want to do something. I just don't want to depend on social welfare that feeds me through. Many people do this in Switzerland, but it's definitely not what I want to do. I want to work beside it, at least part-time. And you may ask yourself, got a bit behind here. How did I find out about the furry fandom? It was about 5 years ago, and before that I was a Disney fan. Still am a Disney fan, a huge fan of the Disney parks. And I always enjoyed being at the parks and meeting all those characters and interacting with them and seeing how the little kids got all excited and seeing all those magical moments that happen in these character interactions. And I'm also a hockey fan, a big NHL fan. The team are the Florida Panthers, and I had the privilege to attend many home games of them, and that's where I discovered the mascots at those games. It's something that's not known in Switzerland. We do not have any sports mascots, and I thought, hey, that's such a cool thing. I need to be able to do this myself. Why doesn't this exist in Switzerland? And so I began to research more and more online. I researched about mascotting. Then I found the videos of Kitwana Lion. I'm sure you all know him, being a Seattle local. The moment I saw his public fursuiting videos, I knew that's what I had to do myself. I wanted to do this myself. I found out that there's people like me who enjoy performing a fursuit in public. And then we got in touch with each other, me and Kitwana Lion. I eventually discovered that there are furries in Switzerland too. Not that many, it's less than 200 in a country of 8 million. But still, this led to the creation of my first lion character, Kitwana, which I own as a fursuit since early 2015. But of course, the big question was, would I, respectively my body, be able to handle all the stress, the heat, and everything that comes with fursuiting when you're fursuiting outside? Of course, it's going to be very, very hot. And I remember my very first public fursuiting outing was 3 years ago in my Swiss hometown. And of course it was on a summer day with 90 degrees outside. That's about the highest we get in Switzerland. So I suited up and we went on for 2 hours. Had many magical interactions with the crowds. And I can tell you, at the end of this, I was never more exhausted, never sweated more in my life than on this day. But I knew at the end I survived it, and I knew I was able to cope with the heat eventually. I found out my limits, what I can take and what I cannot take. And And it helped me recognize that there are three main challenges that affect my fursuiting hobby. The first is vision. The second is hydration, of course, when you are not able to drink the traditional way. And the third is hygiene. Now, talking about vision, as you might be able to see, the chickenpox virus did affect the right hand half of my face. You can see it affected my eye. I have absolutely no vision on here. And for those of you who are fursuiters, you know that's already hard enough with bow ties to see out of a fursuit. And for those of you who have never performed a fursuit, you can easily recreate the situation by looking through 2 empty rolls of toilet paper. And then you will get the tunnel vision that a fursuiter has. Now remember, I only see 50% of that. I only see on my left hand eye. It really becomes a tunnel vision. And how do I overcome this? Well, it sounds impossible, but it's a simple thing of practicing. Practicement makes best. I started wearing my fursuit around the house for like 10 to 15 minutes only at a time, at the very beginning. I learned to climb stairs and handle doors and everything. Over time, I managed to do this pretty well, but still it requires a huge amount of concentration whenever I'm in fursuit. I really have to go a bit slower than other folks who see 100%. I really have to take extra care to what's around me so I would not bump into anything. But nowadays, after 2 years, I do feel pretty comfortable both in convention environments and outdoors when public fursuiting. So this gets me to the second and third point. The second point is hydration. So first you must understand that the main damage my condition did to me was it affected the swallowing functions. Basically there's a lack of proper coordination between my windpipe and my gullet. The opening and closing mechanism isn't properly synchronized. That means it is too dangerous for me to eat or drink anything through my mouth. The doctors prohibited me from doing this, and so I have a feeding tube since birth that I rely 100% on. And all I have is a special tube feeding formula which comes in these bags. 3 of those bags overnight, each night. That's what I need. And it also means that whenever I travel, I have to take this along. And that's the other, goes into these bags. It's the other part of the equipment. These bags go into this bag, and then it runs all night long for 5 hours. And that's how I eat. So basically, hey, I can say during the day I do not have to eat, or of course I do have to drink after every fursuiting session. Then I really have to feed myself water. That of course, but I see it positive. There's always behind every bad thing there's something positive. So of course, being dependent on that, I have to pre-plan my fursuiting sessions to a certain extent. I cannot just stop into the headless lounge and drink something, because that would require me to slap all this equipment along with me. And of course, I cannot do this. So what I do is, after like 2 hours, that's about the maximum amount of time I can spend in fursuit, then I go up to my room, get out of suit, head under the shower, and then hook this up and feed myself water and drink. Cool down and relax for a bit. And the final issue is something that requires quite a bit of courage for me to talk about it, because it's not something I'm very proud of it, but it is an invisible side effect of my condition. I told you this is a special tube feeding formula, so that's not something you would drink the traditional way. There's one disadvantage this product has. It's unflavored, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't smell. It does smell, and it smells bad, admittedly. It's not a big problem as long as you do not sweat. But once you are sweating, and you are sweating a lot when you are in fursuit, then you basically sweat out pure vitamins. This is pure vitamins. It's all because that's all I need. And this you will smell. And if this wasn't bad enough, you have learned that there's an improper coordination between my windpipe and my gullet. And that can generate odor that's coming through my mouth. And I cannot control this, basically odors that come from my stomach, because it's not closing and opening properly. And I have basically no control over this. So you're asking yourself thoroughly, is there something you can do about this? The answer is yes, but only to a certain extent. You hopefully all heard of the famous furry convention rule, the 6-2-1 rule. You know, 6 hours of sleep, 2 meals a day, and 1 shower a day. I do have to exceed that 1 shower a day rule by far. One thing I do to combat this, the side effects, is that I take a full bath after every fursuiting session. There's no way around it for me. I definitely feel more comfortable when I take a full bath, not only a shower, for like 30 minutes. And then of course I would use all the stuff that other fursuiters are using, like a good deodorant and mouth spray and everything in insane amounts. But keep in mind that these products, they do help, but they are not designed to handle a special condition like I have. It's the best thing they can do is to minimize impacts, but I cannot 100% avoid any smells. They can cover up smells, but they cannot eliminate them in each and every situation, especially after 1 or 2 hours. Things obviously start to get bad. And I can tell you about an experience that I have made at the previous furry convention a while ago. I've had a fellow furry messaging me. He was pursuing with me, telling me to take better care of my hygiene, because he noticed smells, of course, and everything. And I totally admit that when I first read the message on my phone, it did hurt me. Of course, it hurt me real bad, because I knew there's not much I can only do that much about it. But then after a while, I realized my friend wasn't aware of all the various visible and invisible side effects of my condition. There's no way he could have known each and everything. So I explained the situation, and it turned out this was in fact the issue, and my friend wasn't fully aware of that. And it was no problem for that friend after that. He totally understood. As soon as I explained my special situation, which is so incredibly rare, I cannot expect people to know about each and everything about it. So I want you to understand that I really do my best to make my fursuiting as comfortable, fun and safe for everyone around me. Sometimes it's harder to battle these challenges, sometimes it's easier. What I learned is that open communication is key. This is why I'm here at doing this panel, to hopefully work on that understanding a little bit. And it's always a good idea when people ask. I have no problem if you ask me about anything about my condition. That's always better than just assume something that may be true or may not be true at all, because I really do my best to minimize the impacts of my condition. And also, I think staying positive about it is what goes a long way. Okay, so I never get to drink a beer or taste any of the famous Swiss chocolate. I'll never get to do this in my life. The condition is irreversible. But hey, you know what? I see it positive. I save all the expenses on food. I can save that money. This is paid for by my health insurance too. 100%, the equipment as well. Basically, it's food for free. That's one of my approaches to see things, and which helps me getting through this. Of course, it's not always fun to live with a disability, but as I said, there's positive things in every bad things. And fursuiting, it gives me a lot. It enables me to give back to the community around me. It's totally worth to overcome this, these special talents that I have. Maybe some of you know my YouTube channel, my public fursuiting channel. Some people confuse me with Kitwana Lion because we are doing very similar things. We're both Lion King fans. We both have lion characters, and I do a lot of public fursuiting in Switzerland. And I really enjoy this. I have even fursuited at my workplace, which is a special education facility for severely handicapped kids in Switzerland. And being special needs myself, I know how much this means to these kids when there's someone dressing up in a funny animal costume and entertaining them. So I can totally understand why. And bottom line, do not let your disability ever let you stop from having fun and enjoying yourself. Even if it's challenging. The word disability ends in ability after all. And that's the bottom line I want to make here. Now, Rukario,
that was awesome. Let's give it up.
Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for that very inspiring story. Well, I didn't really realize that you had to solely rely on, you know, on that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, you know, there's benefits in that because I just probably had about 2,500 calories right there. And,
Yeah, I do get about, I do get 2,000 calories overnight, so it's all, the doctors told me how much I need of this, and it's the same amount every night, and that keeps me going.
So now, just from my understanding, maybe to help everyone, when you set up the feeding pump, is there a machine that?
Yes, it is a machine, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, all right.
The machine, the tube runs through this machine, and it connects here to the feeding tube.
Okay,
It's nothing bloody or anything, it's very clean, it's very simple. This is the connection, you just screw it into the feeding tube and it will stay locked.
oh, okay.
It's a very good system. It doesn't require a lot of work. It's once a year I have to change the internal feeding tube, but I can do this myself and just take it out and put the new one in. No problem.
Thank you so much. My name is Rukario, or Rukario, and yes, Rukario is my last name. I joke with people, my name is my surname. Well, that is actually true. And I came from the foreign country known as New Jersey. For many people who've been through New Jersey, they will say that yes, that is a foreign country. But anyway, my condition is spastic diplegic cerebral palsy, and what that means is my lower half. There's just a slight delay between the synapses in my lower extremities and how they communicate with my brain,
I'm aware of the special education facility where I work. We have a lot of CP kids.
Nice.
I'm well aware of it, yeah.
And, you know, so I just want to go into what physically challenged is defined as. You know, physically challenged is defined as, you know, a condition that significantly limits a person's motor, sensory, or cognitive abilities and the state of having a condition. That is the actual dictionary definition. And I've always wondered, what does that mean? You know, and through the decades, you know, and through, you know, political correctness, you know, the definition has become softer over time. I mean, I remember in the 70s, okay, the dreaded R word, which is one I consider derogatory now, and one that I have been referred to as many times, was retarded. And that is like an expletive to me, because I believe that we all are very unified. We may have different ways of doing things, and our methods may be unorthodox, okay, but we get it done. We get it done, and everyone here has a purpose. Everyone here has a reason for being. And, you know, back when I was born on 2 June 1971 at Holy Family Hospital in New Delhi, India, doctors told my parents probably the worst thing a young couple could ever hear. Being the first of 3, they told my parents, well, your son will not be able to read, write, speak, walk, or talk. They've said he'll be a vegetable for the rest of his life.
They also told me I would never be able to live independently and look.
Oh, and they told me that too. And
I have my own apartment and I live on my own. And I get through financially and no problem, yeah.
And, you know, I do
Most
too.
everyone wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You did.
You know, and I just made it a mission. It's like, you know what? I don't care what the doctors say. I'm going to prove them all wrong. I put myself through school. I put myself through college with almost a 4.0 GPA. I live on my own. I've lived on my own since I was 18. I drive a standard transmission at a stick shift, and that seems to make people really raise eyebrows. It's like, you can do that? It's like, yeah, I can do that. I prefer to do that because driving an automatic just is boring.
Well, in Europe, it's more common.
No, right. But I just have always done it. It's not something that I have put any cognitive thought to. I see something, I want something, I get it done, I make it happen. I put steps in place, I'm very methodical, and I do it. And I beat all the odds, and I'm doing all those things. And furry fandom, for me, began with one question in late 2005, when my friend, who was very much into the Pokemon trading card game as I was, we were going down to the World Championships in San Diego. I was living in Las Vegas at the time. He was living in Bakersfield, or he was living in Mariposa, which is right outside Yosemite, and I picked him up. So we had 6 hours in a car together, and just out of the blue, he just decided to ask me randomly, "Are you a furry?" And I'm like, "Mike, what are you talking about? I'm in real estate, I'm not in carpentry." Because I thought furry meant like, carpentry, shag carpet, things like that. That's furry.
Yeah, I had no idea that furry even existed.
Yeah,
I knew about it.
I didn't either. So I gave it some thought, and I said, "Mike, wait a minute. Are you telling me you're part of this group that dresses up in these elaborate costumes and does all these little things?" That's what I knew. That's what I knew of this community. He goes, "No. So it's not like I could duck out of the question, right? Because I had 6 hours in the car a car with him. So I was going to hear it whether he wanted me to or not. So he proceeded to tell me for the next 6 hours about this fandom. And I had just gotten back from Japan. I went to Japan to go see a Pokemon movie. Isn't that wild? Yeah, but I'm just crazy that way. And I fell in love with the character Rukario. And Rukario was actually not my persona, believe it or not. I'm actually an Arctic wolf. And it is a plan of mine to get my actual persona put into a fursuit. But I did very well. So I said, "Mike, just on the off chance," not even thinking that he would ever say yes. It's like, "Mike, do you think I could find someone that could actually build a fursuit of Rukario?" He goes, "Absolutely." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's so on right now. Let's do this." 18 months later, Aaron Studios, the geniuses that they are, created this fursuit. So I didn't have any idea what a fursuit was. I just gave this guy money. It's like, "You build fursuits, good. Here's my money, take it." All right? I didn't do any research. I never went to any cons. I didn't want to know. I wanted to find out on my own. And I wanted to do that for one very specific reason. I didn't want anyone putting preconceived ideas in my head. I wanted to find out on my own because that's how I make my decisions. That's how I make my assessments on things. I don't like hearing what other people have to say. I'll take their feedback, but I want to learn. I feel that makes me, that leaves me open to my own interpretation. So in July of 2007, 3 days before Anthrocon, which I was slated to go to, and everyone told me, "Oh, you don't want to go to Anthrocon, it's too big." Good, I'm going, just for that reason. Just because, right? Just to spite them, right? I'm just that way. And I wanted to go because it was the biggest and best. And I did. And so I get this big box in the mail. I'm like, "Wow, what is this?" It's heavy. Weighs 40 pounds. I'm like, "What is this?" You know, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I've heard from this guy, and I got busy with things, and I kind of forgot about the fursuit. And it's like, I get this thing, there's this big head in the mail that's like big ears like this. I'm like, holy shit, stop, check this out. I'm pulling out this head, and I'm like, whoa, this is neat. And I'm like pulling out this big head. I mean, it's dark blue, it's beautiful. I mean, it's just like Rukario's likeness. It doesn't have a mouth or anything. I pull out the bodysuit, which weighs like 25 pounds. It's triple lined. Pull out the feet paws, pull out the hand paws, and everything. The tail is attached. And so I'm like, it is 45 degrees Celsius or 110 degrees Fahrenheit out in Las Vegas. You know what? I said, I'm going to put this thing on right now. I have never suited before in my life, and I'm going out in 110 degree heat. What the heck is wrong with me? I had a blast. I could only do it for 5 minutes because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm dying in this thing. I have Niagara Falls coming off my forehead. I'm sweating so much. It's like, oh, okay, so there's a process to this. So, all right, so for the next 3 days, I kind of did some major cramming. I did 5 minutes, you know, just like Kitwana did with this. I had to acclimate myself to you getting into fursuit. But for me, it's like, you know, I'm very independent. I want to do this on my own. There was one challenge with the Rukario fursuit. It had a rear zipper. Now see, I didn't know about fursuit construction. Rukario 2.0 is currently in production. So Rukario 2.0 will have a front zipper. Because I want to be able to get the fursuit myself. I'm just very
Yeah, that will be
independent
much
that
more
way.
comfortable.
So my first con is Anthro 2007, which had 2,800 people. That was the biggest con back in 10 years ago. I look back now, it's like, wow, that's what BLFC had 2 years ago. My first fursuit parade was AnthroCon 2007. Okay, it was the March of Death then, and it's still the March of Death now. I got a spotter who decided to take off in the middle of the parade. I had no idea what I was doing. I found out the importance then of having a spotter when I do fursuit parade. And I talked about that yesterday in my other panel. But, you know, this community helped me with so many social challenges that I had. 15 years ago, I could not do what I'm doing right now. I would be petrified, I'd be stuttering. I think you'd be able to, you know, if one was a seismologist, they'd be able to understand me because I'd be stuttering. It would be like, you know, Morse code. Because I could, you know, I would have challenges doing it. But when I put on the fursuit, something curious happened. I became a different character. So real Rukario was still present, but he was in the back of my mind, right? So when I donned the character, and I'm sure Kitwana can relate to this, you become a different character. So I took the mannerisms of my character. So it's like all the challenges, all the social challenges that I had as a human being didn't exist with Rukario. So I could easily go up to someone and say, hey, how you doing? That was a crippling paradigm that I overcame, thanks to this community, thanks to fursuit. Okay? This community has saved my life. And it's, you know, it has helped me in so many ways. It has, you know, and I made friends. I made, you know, people started saying things to me. The biggest thing that really gets me and still gets me to this day, 11 years later, I've been in the fandom for 11 years, is when people would tell me, Rukario, you're an inspiration. And truthfully, I did not know what that meant, and I really still don't today. Because I just simply do it. I just simply do it.
Well, you're an inspiration because you do not let your disability stop you from doing anything.
I don't.
That's because you're an inspiration to me.
I appreciate
I try to do the same thing.
And for me, you know, people look at disability, and it's like Kitwana said at the end of his.
Yeah.
Okay, disability has ability at the end of it. So there we go, right? None of us are disabled because we're all very able. We may have different ways of doing things, but we get it done. I have very different ways of doing things. But I'll show you, okay, an expletive with me is a 4-letter expletive, and it's C-A-N apostrophe T. That does not exist in my vocabulary, never has, never will. 46 years old. Now, as I will show you, I can. So see. So, attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. I walk in to the David H. Lawrence Convention Center, July of 2007. The positive energy was off the scale. It was amazing. I'm like jonesing off of this. It is absolutely unlike anything else. I'm getting hugs, I'm getting phone numbers. It's like, Rukario, you want to be friends? It's like, yeah, sure. I didn't have any. Before I found this fandom, I had 0 friends. It's okay. You know what? I just get it done. Doesn't stop me. All right? I just do what I have to do. I'm very independent. Those of you who know me, I'm very stubborn. Okay? If I can't do it, if I'm not able to do it, I will only ask for help when I absolutely need it. I used to live in New York City. You would see me with fursuit. You would see me with walker going down 2 flights of subway stairs to the subway. And, 10-degree weather. Nothing stops me. I win. It's like, look, I can do this. I've been to Japan. Japanese would look at me and say, wow, he's doing it. Yeah. I am. Because you know what? I don't look at myself as physically challenged. I look at myself as ably different. Okay? And different is not a bad thing. Okay? We're all special. We're all special. We all have a reason. We all have a purpose for being. But Rukario, you're an inspiration. You know? That's like that really took me. That really took me. So after AC 2007, I found something else that happened to me. I started feeling this kind of depression. And it's like, so I flew back, and it's like, this is odd. Someone told me that was called post-con depression. It's like, this sucks. This really sucks. It's like, I have to do another one of these. Because I just had a lot of fun. I wanted to give back to the community what the community did to me. This community stopped me from suicide. I'm a pretty strong-willed person. Sometimes I get the funk. The funk sucks. But you know what? It's part of life. It gets me. It's like I just welcome the funk. It's like, all right, this is what it is. So the symbiotic connection that I made with Rukario was awesome. People would touch my ears. I'd feel it. I could feel my tail wag. I could feel like I became Rukario, and it was like, this is just so awesome. I just go up to people and automatically begin engaging. And so I'm like, all right, what can I do? What can I do to give back? It's like, well, you can volunteer. It's like, okay, that's good. And I started volunteering at cons. I then started joining groups, fursuit groups that would go out on charity walks. My defining moment of my fursuiting career in the last 10 minutes, and I'm going to be wrapping up. I had an autistic child. I was in Long Island. I was out on Long Island, and this autistic child came up to me, 7 years old. I don't know too much about autism or what it is. I just know that it's, a lot of voices. There's a lot of chaos in the mind. These voices go on. And this child looked into my eyes, and the biggest smile came across his face. And for just a few seconds, the chaos in his mind stopped, and he got clarity. And I knew right there, we made a connection just like that. And I knew right there, this is what I would do. It brought tears to my eyes, it was so good. So ever since, like Kitwana does, I go out and do public pursuit, all right? To Johnny, who's also here, has the Emerald City furs, I think.
Emerald City Critters.
Emerald City Critters, right? So, I mean, New York was high for, but nothing stops me. And I mean, the point that I want to get across is, you can do it. You know what? Fursuiting has just changed my life. It has broken down all the barriers. People have accepted me. People have respected me in this community. And a lot of, out in the mainstream community where people told me I couldn't, furry fandom says I can. So, I just, in closing here, I just want to say that I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna continue, and, the anthropomorphic community over the last 10 years has shown me the value of each and every member of it. It presents to the differently, to the diversity. The diversity in this fandom is amazing. Okay? From a side that's giving and compassionate to the converse, the duality that exists within each of one of us, the importance that we all have, we all add to the diversity of this family. And we are all very embodied, even especially in this family. And, we make of the community what we choose in our own perception of what is around us. Attitude is everything. We shall have it within us to reach the stars and make a difference. To all, we are an inspiration to each other. I want to thank you all for coming to our panel, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Can I answer any questions for any people on the line?
Honestly, I think you did a really good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It does take me a lot of courage to talk about my side effects and everything. It really is not something I'm proud about, but I think open communication goes a long way.
Yeah.
And that increases understanding of each other.
It does.
Without understanding boomers' stories.
I'm very easy to approach. I love hugs. I love making a difference.
The one difference I have compared to you is I cannot drive. But you must understand in Switzerland the roads are tiny.
Right.
It's nothing like outside here, there are freeways and everything. But we have a world-class public transit system, like in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Second to that.
Oh, I've been to Switzerland. It's a beautiful
So in
country.
Switzerland, you're better off without a car. Many people, 40% do not own a car. I get along just fine with public transit. It takes me anywhere to the most rural parts, to the airport when I travel, I take the train. So there's no need for me to drive. I have a bus outside my apartment every 3 minutes going downtown.
That's
Great, even on weekends, 24 hours a day. It's amazing.
That's really nice.
That, of course, helps being independent.
All right, any other questions for us? Well, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Sorry, really.
It's all right.
That's okay.
Would anyone like this?